G'day, AJ.
G'day, Mo.
How
How
are
you
ya?
doing? I'm doing good.
I'm
How are
great
you
too.
doing?
Yeah, I'm great too. Well, listen,
Another week.
another week, another episode. Welcome to another episode. I've lost count. Don't know how many we're in. But anyway,
Now,
doesn't matter. We're here. You're here. I'm here. And it's another episode of Songs on the Couch.
Sitting down, we're talking out. Breaking it down, songs on the couch. Music and minds, we'll figure it out. Laughing and learning what it's all about. On the couch.
it is.
Yeah.
What song are we doing?
No, you tell me, drum chucks. You tell me.
Oh, okay.
What song?
I thought I'd switch it up
Are you
this
gonna?
episode, but no.
Okay,
That's
no,
right.
no,
That's
no,
fine.
no, It's your job.
I'll introduce it.
Okay.
I'll introduce it.
Right.
We're going to the 90s. We're slowly going backwards. We
going
started off at the late
backwards.
2000s, mid 2000s. Now we're going late 90s. We
Okay,
haven't
I'm
gone
here
full
for
90s,
it.
but late
Okay.
90s, 1997.
Where we going?
Everyone would know this song. One hit wonder, although don't tell the band that because they hate being called as a one hit wonder band. But it is a one hit wonder.
Right.
Flagpole Sitta by Harvey Danger.
It's a good one. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
It's such a distinctive. The verse and the chorus, they're just so distinctive
Aren't they?
and memorable. Yeah.
Catchy tune. So, really was their biggest hit. Kind of a one-hit wonder. But
Only
I'm
is their biggest
sure-
hit.
I'm sure they've been plugging away, playing, little pubs and clubs. Or are they? Okay, I'm just assuming.
They're not. No.
Maybe it's time for you to tell us about the song and some interesting tidbits. What do you got?
Very
Tell me
nice.
about the song. Tell us about the song.
We're going to go straight into the interesting tidbits. I love it. They brought out 3 albums. Finished in 2005. Came back briefly in 2009, but then to do tours and then broke up and haven't been together. So literally a one-hit wonder band.
A one-hit wonder. When did this song come out?
1997.
1997. Okay. Don't you ever wonder, like, what are these? Did these one-hit wonder people, like, actually make enough money to kind of, just invest in stock portfolios and kind of, like, do nothing for the rest of their lives? Or are, like, these guys, kind of out in the daily grind, like you and me, just doing a desk job? Well, you, not me, but I'm doing a job,
Well, we're both working. We're not earning a living from this as of yet, but definitely
this is
have a
passion
full-time job.
project.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wonder what guys like that are up to. Do you ever wonder that? Do you ever wonder?
I do wonder that. I do.
What-
And I can tell you what the lead singer
you?
is up to. Yeah.
Can you?
Because
Okay.
he's gone back to an everyday job.
What's he doing?
So he became a journalist and a school teacher.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what a story to tell your kids at the
Yeah.
school? Guys, if you set your mind to it, you can achieve anything.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And
Yeah, Sean.
sorry, you go.
No, that's all right. No, I was just going to say, Sean Nelson, the lead singer, became a music journalist and a teacher,
Right.
and probably still is. I know he's a journalist for like music Seattle, because obviously the band's from Seattle, so
Right.
Seattle Music Magazine. He's a journalist for that, but. Yeah,
Right.
I would hope that he's at least being a music teacher in school and like teaching like something really boring like maths or history.
No, mate. He might be teaching psychology. Who knows?
Oh, that's it. You never know.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of, the Seattle grunge scene was really kind of happening in 1997 when these guys released this song.
these guys, this band's probably more alternative. Like the grunge Seattle scene started in the like 1990, even
Early
like late
90s.
80s. Yeah, like Pearl Jam, Nirvana. Well, they're the two biggest grunge.
Alice in Chains. Yeah. Even I know that.
Yeah.
What else did
yeah,
we have? Mudhoney,
Yeah.
Screaming Trees.
yeah.
I'm thinking Kim Gordon and who was that? And Thurston Moore from
Not Soundgarden.
Sonic Youth.
Sonic Youth.
Were
Yeah.
they grunge? Yeah, they were probably
Yeah.
grunge.
Pixies.
The Pixie. Yeah. Did I
But I don't
say
think they're
Mudhoney?
Seattle.
Probably
You
did.
did say Mudhoney.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that I don't even know if Sonic Youth are from Seattle. Do you know what? We are going to offend a lot of music nerds with our
lot of Gen Xers.
speculation.
We are
A lot of Gen
grunge
X,
nerds.
right? Just with our speculation and just
Yeah.
riffing on it. But, we're always open for correction corner. So get in the comments and tell us how
are.
crap we are.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
But this came out like the late 90s, where a lot of like those, and there were a lot of one-hit wonder songs, but they were so popular because they were all played in like for like movies and TV. Like that's how they
Soundtrack.
became soundtracks. Thank you. The soundtracks of our
Soundtrack.
lives.
Soundtrack songs. Okay, I'm hearing
But-
it.
In saying that, this is once again, we've talked in other episodes about the Mandela effect. When I listen to Flagpole Sitta, I think, oh yeah, the songs were in like all these 90s like teen movies. And when I looked up, I'm like, oh, I wonder, like I'm sure I've heard that song in like so many of like those coming of age late 90s teen movies, like
Yeah.
well, American Pie for one of them.
Right, yeah.
Loser, which was before American Pie, like all those actors who were in their 20s playing, 17-year-olds.
Yeah,
coming of age.
yeah.
But they weren't.
Okay, so so the Mandela effect for the people in the back is a widespread false memory. Okay,
Yeah.
so the widespread false memory is that Flagpole Sitta was the soundtrack to our life, but did it never appear in anything?
No. Well, it appeared in shows, but not in like those coming of age, like those late 90s, early 2000s coming of age teen movie.
The teen, super
that just
bad.
came,
Was that
like,
yeah.
That's probably more mid 2000s,
that
but
mid
probably more like the
2000s? Okay.
American Pie, like
Right.
that era.
Okay. Yeah. We really need to do more research, don't we?
We do, yeah. No, Superbad was more like mid 2000s.
Okay. I'm gonna look that up.
2010s. Yeah,
Right,
you look that
okay.
up while I keep telling
Yeah.
us about our interesting.
Okay,
tidbit.
yeah.
So
that
I
was
was like-
2007, so yeah.
Yeah, mid 2000s.
Yeah, okay. Do go on. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, so it just blew, once again, mind blown, thinking, no, I swear this song's been in so many of those movies that I grew up
Yeah.
in my early teens, like relating. And they related this song to, we'll go back to American Pie, like the kid that was like the hipster of the time, but I'm edgy, but I'm not
Yeah.
cool, but I've got like this gloomy backstory. So therefore this song is like
Yeah.
my soundtrack of my teen life.
Yeah, like the irony is I'm totally suffering, but
Yeah.
I'm making a joke of it, I'm making light of it, and
Yeah.
and therefore that makes me ironically cool because I can
Yeah.
tolerate my suffering and create art from it. That's right.
That's right.
Which, I mean, I don't mean to mock that because actually really good art comes from suffering.
It does. But it's funny that this song was like radio top 20, top 40 popular hit. So it didn't match.
It wasn't the
persona of the
alternative,
character.
the
No.
alternative kind of persona. Yeah.
It really wasn't.
Okay. All right. So more interesting tidbits. What else?
More
What else
interesting
can
tidbits.
what else can you tell us about this song?
So, what else can I tell you about? Well, being the one hit wonder, they brought out 2 other albums afterwards, but obviously didn't make any hits from there. Once again, they hated being called one hit wonders. Like,
For
if
their
so,
fans, that was 3 albums worth of hits, wasn't it?
well, that's right. But
Yep.
the commercial, like, it's almost like
Commercial success.
yeah, the singer, he used to hate people come up to me like, "Oh, you're that guy that just had that one song," and it used to piss him off. He's like, "No, I actually brought out other stuff. Like, I just didn't have that one. It's like that one song that's just lingered over his head for decades. Like, that's
What
all
would
you
that be
know for is just
like?
that one thing."
What would that be like? I mean, if we could psychologically kind of, let's use a little bit of a psychological construct called mentalization. Mentalization is the ability to take your mind into the mind of someone else and kind of fantasize or just hypothesize what they might be thinking. And so, what do you reckon? His thoughts are when people sort of say, "You're that one guy that had that one song."
Success. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what is he thinking? Is he thinking I've made it? Is he thinking no? He's
Nah,
probably
I
thinking
think he's frustrated.
I'm incredibly frustrated that
Yeah.
I have been reduced down to one thing that I did in my life when I am
Yeah.
a very complex and I'm a very multifaceted human being with many talents.
That's right.
Or do you think one might feel pride? Like, yeah, man, I am that guy that had that one song and it was a beautifully crafted song. And
I
I'm
think
really
so,
proud
yeah.
of it. And
I think in this instance, though, Sean feels like, that one stupid thing you did in high school that everyone still remembers. Like, if you had a high school reunion like 30 years later, like, "Oh, you're that guy that did that really stupid thing in high school, and we all remember you for that." I think that's how he's feeling.
maybe, but it wasn't a stupid thing though. It was
wasn't.
a
Oh, absolutely
commercially
not.
successful thing that broke through because of its relatability, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
its catchiness.
100%.
I mean, if we could kind of, think about our own perceptions of the song, it's really catchy. It's quite the tune. Like, I think it's I said it before, it's relatable. It's I think particularly for Gen X and kind of older millennials.
Yep. Yeah.
I think there's some. I mean, we can get into that in a minute. Have we finished with the interesting tidbits? Am I like
Let's have a look.
Am I diving straight into the psychological analysis?
You probably are.
Am I?
Well, yeah, I think it's like going back to the identity crisis. I think a lot of people related this song, which is going to, I guess, talking about this is going to progress into your side of things, which I can also relate even now when I listen to it, like, oh yeah, when I was at that age listening to that song, like, early teens when this song came out, I'm like, yeah, I was that in-betweener kid in school where I was like, I didn't hang out with the cool kids, but I didn't really hang out with like the nerdy kids. I was just kind of like this floater that would go around groups, or or the edgy, not so much. I was definitely not edgy in high school. And and if any of my old high school friends are listening, they can definitely tell you I was not edgy, but I would hang around, like, I had a lot of like female friends. I was that guy in the movies that like his best friend was a female and he would always be like, the friend zoned guy, but would always be like the daggy clothes or listen to like the daggy music or, so I can really, my inner teenager is really relating to this song.
So maybe what you're relating to is, I think, if we want to get into a bit of psychological analysis, is the lack of strong attachment figures, right? So, let's talk about the kind of, I guess, social and familial milieu, the context in which us Gen Xers and older millennials kind of found ourselves in, which is, we're the first generation where both of our parents worked. And I think we've talked about this in another episode, but, we were the latchkey kids. We were, like really au fait with how to use the microwave and like, you know, do stuff for ourselves because there was nobody to do it for us. We were just, we all became hyper independent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't have our parents around to attach to because they were working and they were busy trying to make money, pay off the mortgage, you know, save up for fancy holidays, all of that stuff. And then, you know, if we don't kind of have a lot of interests or we don't have sort of regular sporting or social activities that we do, we don't have like a strong peer group that we're attaching to. And so we don't have a lot of mirrors, you know, like we didn't have a lot of mirrors. And what I mean by that is we didn't have a lot of people that we were attached to telling us how great we were. So it kind of ended up in like a, you know, a self-loathing. Like a, you know, because we didn't have anyone telling us that we're doing a great job. We didn't, you know, we were kind of in an echo chamber of loneliness and a bit of social isolation and hyper independence, and no one was telling us we were doing a great job. So we're just kind of stuck in a bit of self-loathing, I think.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just weren't cool. But ironically, we could take that pain and mock ourselves with it. About
we can talk about it now after nearly, you know, 30 years later. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, if we're sort of thinking about that context in which the, you know, us Gen X and older millennials grew up in, you know, nobody was telling us we were doing a great job. Nobody was asking us how we felt. Everybody was just telling us to get over it. So we've kind of developed this chronic sort of low-grade resentment towards authority. And, you know, we've kind of become ambivalent about ourselves, our lives, society, maybe a little bit self-loathing. And we certainly were not allowed to feel our feelings. No, sirree, Bob.
No. Although in saying that, there is then the other side where, and I think this song really relates to, at the time of like the high schools of the late night. It's and like high school is so different now. Look, I wouldn't know what high school's like now, but high school in the late 90s, early 2000s, when all those movies in America came out, and like we use American Pie because that was probably the most popular, you know, like movie that came out of that coming of age teen, what it was like in high schools, you know, with all the different types of what were you got, like levels of, you know, you had the jocks,
hierarchy,
the popular kids, the
status,
nerds, the hierarchies, status. Yeah. So I know for me being in high school, like a lot of my year levels when that movie came out, like we all attached to that movie in some way, you know, so I probably attached to more that Flagpole Sitta style. You know, I would be in my bedroom alone, feeling sorry for myself, listening to that song all the time. You know, and then having that anxiety and paranoia of going to school and then trying to assimilate with the other groups, you know, the other types of groups. So I think this song is, it's more of a, not another teen movie song type of thing, you know, it's not another teen song, but it's really, I think it really hits, of that late 90s, and people like, I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh yeah, no, I feel exactly the same way, which I hope you do. That school life, like
of not fitting into that hierarchy and those movies kind of being a bit of a mirror to that hierarchy, and kind of when you are confronted with that hierarchy and you're shown that hierarchy explicitly, it reminds you of maybe your loneliness and your maybe your lack of fitting in, you know,
lack of fitting in.
Yeah.
Because if you've watched Woodstock 99, so I suggest people to watch that documentary. It's amazing. And that like most of the people at that Woodstock Festival '99 were those jocks that were in all of those '90s, high school teen movies where you had the douche jock, but like people gravitated towards that style of person, and you just see in that documentary there's so many of them. So like people.
They were
wanted to be that
disenfranchised young men who then sort of developed a sense of entitlement and messed shit up is what they did in Woodstock 99.
They did. Oh man, that was a disaster.
It was particularly poorly organised and
very poorly organised.
Right. Okay. So,
but in high school, in my years, that's what. And then like the girls who weren't, they gravitated towards that. So then you had like the people like me who was like that. I was like, why are my friends hanging around with those douchebags?
I know
the you've got a cool guy, like you've got an awesome friend right here
who is suffering ironically and making fun of his pain, right? And then, you're going for the entitled jock jerks who are going to treat you terribly. But you know what? They were just all lonely little boys, I think. They never had any mirrors, and they had to create an archetype of strength and resilience and masculinity and just to get by, didn't they?
Yeah.
They sure
did. But who was
did.
the sucker that always accepted the friends when they got burnt and they came back and they're like, oh, you're
that
such
guy.
a good guy. That was that guy. This guy. This guy with two thumbs right here.
So,
and you know what? When that happened, guess what song I was listening to? All of those 90s teen, like, woe is me.
Angsty songs like
Angsty.
Flagpole Sitta by Harvey
100%.
Danger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, it was
the soundtrack.
The soundtrack of our lives. It was, kids of that generation, late teens, early 20s, we were told to repress our feelings about not fitting in or to repress our feelings full stop. Therapy was still for crazy people. Vulnerability was cringy. You couldn't be vulnerable. And I think that's where that jock archetype kind of came from. The goal was to be cool and, bulletproof. But under the surface, be a bully. But under the surface, kids like you especially were experiencing depression, anxiety related to their identity and their social status and, some sort of existential dread and a deep need for connection. But we didn't have the skills to ask for it because nobody taught us because everybody was at work.
That's right. It was, you're going to learn a little bit about me. As a 16-year-old, trying to put the world on my shoulders and trying to like be that person that like tried to solve everyone else's problems and be like, I'm here for you. I've got you. Like, don't worry about that guy. He's a douche. Like, I'll look after you. Man, that's a lot for a teenager. But
it is. But I think it was probably your attempts for attachment, right?
100%.
You probably were, attempting to make deep and meaningful connections with people by being of service to them. I mean, who should have been the therapist here?
Wow.
Probably that guy.
Right. Yeah, this guy right here. But who got burnt every time? This guy right here.
Who got burnt? Yeah.
Who was always left. But you think about it. We didn't have like social media. We had nothing like that. So what we relied on were those like movies. Yeah. Essentially, like movies was our social media. So like when all those like teen movies, and it's probably like the same for kids in the 80s when all of those John Hughes movies came out, like Breakfast Club, like pretty much we'll talk about like, I don't want to put these two in the same category because they're really different. You can almost say like American Pie is kind of like the Breakfast Club for the late 90s, 2000s. But
came out in
like
99.
It came out in 99, like right on the crux
Yeah.
of like the turn of the century.
Yeah. But these movies presented to us like socially what we could potentially expect as,
Yeah.
teens and late teens and early 20s. Like these were the social templates of the hierarchies that we should expect, apparently.
Apparently, yeah. So that's
apparently.
what the movies were telling us because that's what they were portraying.
Yeah.
It's just like social media now. You listen to what Instagram and TikTok and Facebook tell us, like, this is how it should be, and we go, oh yeah, I guess that's how it should be. Like that was for us back then.
Yeah, was those kinds of movies. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we've got a couple of things happening. We've got like those generationally what's happening with Gen X and the older millennials of what's happening with, the development of hyper independence due to no parents and family around, and which means a lack of attachment. And then we're desperate for attachment figures and we're kind of looking to our peers, but there's these social structures and hierarchies that are kind of cock blocking us in a lot of ways, particularly if
Yes.
particularly if we don't quite fit into one category or another. So it just kind of leads us to a sort of, a suffering, a lonely suffering and angst and anguish. And maybe that's what the boys from I'm really not sure the genders of the people in this band, but
Or male band.
all male band. So, leading those fellas to come up with this anthem of angst, of discontent, of anxiety, of paranoia. Yeah, and like a punkish protest about their lot in life.
Yeah.
That's
Raging against the machine.
raging against the machines. So, what are you going to do? I mean, look, the thing that's in my mind is kind of like to talk about the lyrics. When you are feeling like you want to rage against machines and you're feeling angsty and discontent and like you don't fit in, like, let's have a look at the lyrics. Like, what are you going to do? You're probably going to masturbate.
Yeah. That's pretty much, yeah.
I mean, the verse, fingertips have memories, mine can't forget the curves of your body. And when
That's
I feel
it.
a bit naughty, I run it up the flagpole and see who salutes, but no one ever does. So maybe that's
right.
like, all I'm left with, if I'm not fitting in anywhere and nobody's desiring me, all I'm left with is, to rub one out, to try to get myself all the hits of dopamine and all
Absolutely.
the hits of, oxytocin and serotonin and all the feel-good chemicals of attachment and love. But it is self-love.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is self-love.
And honestly, what teenage, well, even teenage girls, but we'll say what teenage boy are like, where they're like, well, those, like they say, those who hesitate masturbate. So,
Right. And teen angst was a hotbed of hesitation because I think another theme that sort of comes across in Flagpole Sitta is this sort of sense of like self-loathing but self-consciousness. Like, I think everyone hates me and I hate myself. So it's kind of a spiraling. So like, how could I ever find an attachment, how could I ever find a romantic attachment? Because, I'm spiraling and no one's going to like me and I hate myself. And
that's right.
So masturbation might be the solution for that.
Yep.
I'm just hypothesizing, just riffing on it, just chucking a couple of ideas out there.
I won't agree or disagree.
Right. Well, it's
Like,
a hypothesis.
that's it.
It's a working hypothesis.
All I'm going to say was I was a teenage boy.
Right. Okay. All right. Duly noted.
Yep.
So we're all men. All men were teenage
all right.
boys.
That's
But
it.
you know, in the absence of actual medication, when you're feeling angry and depressed, you know, I mean, it's in the absence of alcohol and other drugs, or I don't know. I mean, there were a lot of stoners in my day, which I think, you know, may have infiltrated one's sexual functioning and prowess. But,
Yeah.
you know, but in the absence of that, what do you got as a coping mechanism? It's probably masturbation, and also, ironically, picking on yourself and saying everything sucks, but I'm going to be witty about it. And my life sucks and I hate myself. And I think everybody else hates me, so I'm just going to be witty about it.
Yeah. And then I'm going to listen to those songs that make me
Yeah.
feel that's another thing personally, like, and that's what music is so great. Like,
Yeah.
it makes you you gravitate towards feelings. And we've talked about this previously, like, you know, why do we listen to a specific song is because at the time, that's what we're feeling. And that's almost like the drug. That's what gets us onto the other side of the hill.
Well, it kind of reinforces our feelings, helps us kind of discharge them, get on the other side of the hill, as you say, and have someone hold a mirror up to what we're feeling so we don't feel so alone. So we feel like we're part of some kind of collective, you know, so that our experiences are not in isolation, that other people feel the same way too. And that's kind of affirming. We want that validation. We want that affirmation. And music can do that for us, can't it?
100%. Absolutely. And that's why, you know, there was either two options: listen to that song, or, like you said, go bat one out.
Rub one out, bat one out. What are
Bat
the masturbation euphemisms? I don't rub one out, bat one out.
Choking the chicken. I remember as a teenager choking the chicken. Bashing the bishop. You know, there was too many.
I don't know if that lyric is about masturbation. But
Probably not.
That is where my mind went. Like, this guy's probably had one of his first sexual experiences, and in the absence of other romantic attachments, all that's left is self-love.
Yeah. And when you think about it, a lot of those movies of that that era, there was always a scene where one of the characters was jerking off.
Bashing the
I'm going to
bishop.
try and use a different analogy every time we talk about it.
We're in the gutter.
Beef and the jerky.
Beef and the jerky. I haven't heard that one.
Oh, I just made that up.
Yeah, no, good.
You know, like something about Mary. If you know, there was like so.
When that one come
American
out?
Pie. Oh, late 90s as well.
Yeah.
Like, there was all of those where, like,
1998. Oh, there's a lot of masturbation, wasn't there?
there was like a period of, like, over that late 90s, early 2000, 5-year span where there was always a scene, like, and there was the person that, like, feel sorry for me person, like, they either got caught
Yeah.
masturbating, or it was like okay, I've relieved. Now I can move on to my next task in the movie.
Right. Okay, I can move on to my next protagonist arc after I've been caught, jerking the chicken?
Choking the chicken.
Choking the chicken.
Choking the chicken.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, you know, I'm not sure if my analysis of the lyrics is correct, or if I have unconsciously internalized the narrative of you know, the late 90s, or even from the late 80s to the late 90s, early 2000s films where one of the protagonists is caught having a wank, as we say in Australia.
Yeah.
Having a wank.
Having a, you wanker.
Yes. So, okay. So that's part of my lyrical analysis. I thought, should I bring that one in? Of course I should. I think
100%.
masturbation is it's a natural human experience, and
Yep.
certainly one that is more natural for the teenage age group who are just discovering their bodies, and they are getting down with their bad selves.
Yep.
And and yeah, certainly that's I'm going to stick with that analysis. I'm not sorry about it.
Nah. Nah.
Nah. Yeah. So okay, so in the event of existential malaise, you're gonna have a wank just to try and feel good.
Yep.
But you're also kind of going to pretend externally that you're not suffering. So the kind of main argument or thesis statement of this song is, I'm not sick, but I'm not well. It's kind of that malaise feeling of like, I'm
Yeah.
not clinically diagnosable, but I'm not feeling tippity top.
No.
There's some stuff.
I'm kind of in limbo.
There's some stuff going on. I am high functioning. I'm getting stuff done, but inside I am crumbling. So, I think it's a great war cry this song has used to encapsulate the Gen X struggle. Certainly of the time, but also in time that has gone on since this song was released.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because what teen doesn't feel that, even now?
Well, I mean, what teen from that era doesn't feel that even now?
Yeah, well, that's right. And that's why we're making this podcast, so we can...
Because we so we can talk it out, because we are of that culture that like, just suffer, just keep going, just suffer and keep going. And hey, don't have a feeling about it and don't complain about it. Because if you want to cry, I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was kind of the war cry of our parents, wasn't it?
Well, that and it was kind of, you were seen as like nerdy or like just someone that was unstable if you, within your peers, if you showed anything like that.
Yeah.
Like you just had to be cool and like try and be on top of the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
When you're around your peers.
Yeah,
Because your peers weren't talking to you about that. Like no 16-year-olds going, "Hey, guess what? I'm struggling a little bit. Can we
That's
talk about it?"
right.
It's like,
Yeah, you were mocked. You were mocked.
100%.
Yeah. You like you kind of you hide it through irony and sarcasm and self-mockery, don't you?
Well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think what else are some more things in this song? Like, there's sort of this sense of, I mean, I love that lyric, I'm so hot because I'm in hell. That's sort of, I mean, maybe about all of the angst that we've been describing. Maybe the heat comes from the physiological symptoms associated with the anxiety, the social anxiety, the self-hatred, the existential dread. Or it could be, I mean, there was a lot of polyester in the 90s. We were all kind of...
There was.
We were all melting in polyester. We were all hot.
In plastic. Yeah.
But it's probably not actual heat or flames or pitchforks about being in hell. It's kind of about, again, that internal suffering that no one takes seriously, no one's going to listen to, and you're constantly going to be mocked if you bring it up. So it's that, Yeah, it's that kind of hell. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm psychologically suffering
Internal hell.
internal hell. Yeah.
And it's true. Like when you feel anxious, I'd probably say more anxiety, you get very hot flush. Like
Don't you?
your body just, your temperature
Your
rises
temperature
because
rises.
you can't control yourself. You can't control anything. Your body temperature, your
Yeah.
your physical emotions, your words. Your words start to slur. You can't think straight. Your mind's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Well, Drum Chucks,
It is like hell.
would you like some psychoeducation about that process? Would you like me to tell
Oh,
tell the
our
people
viewers,
what's going?
please.
Could I? Can I tell our listeners?
Yeah.
Anxiety is when your body or your mind, usually your mind, perceives a threat. Now, threats can be actual and real or perceived. So, and we'll talk about that in a minute, like what a perceived threat might be, particularly in the context of this song. But when you perceive a threat, your body goes into fight-flight mode, where it releases the stress hormone, cortisol, which tells your body, right, you got to prepare to fight or run, mofo. Get out of here.
Get the fuck out.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happens is that there's some physiological changes. Your digestion shuts down because you don't need to digest when you're going to run or fight. You get a little bit hot and sweaty, like your temperature starts to rise. You get a bit shaky. Adrenaline kicks in. You get a bit shaky and sweaty. And then your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain at the front part of your noggin, right, shuts down. It shuts down. You can't think. So that part of your brain you need for planning, organising, retrieval of memories, your speech, and that's why you can't think, you can't talk. Things might go a little bit blurry. You get a bit of tunnel vision, and that is our body's way of trying to protect us and keep us alive, is that kind of anxiety. And so, if we're talking about threats, actual or perceived threats, I think in the adolescent context, there's a lot of perceived threats, right? What we were talking about. About everybody hating me. And I think if we go back to Flagpole Sitta, paranoia, everybody's coming to get me. Just say you never met me. If you don't want to be associated with me because I'm uncool and far too emo, although emo was mid-2000s. So we'll get to we'll do an emo song.
This is like pre-emo. This is like emo before
primo.
emo.
Right?
Primo.
This is primo. So, that's a perceived threat that people don't like you. Now, what we might do in therapy is we might ask, well, what evidence do you have for that people don't like you? Okay, and they might say, well, she looked at me in a funny way. She, it looked like she was whispering to someone or, whatever. And so we might challenge it and go, well, maybe she had something in her eye. Maybe she was looking at something past you. And we might challenge that perceived threat. Of course, a funny look or a whisper is a perceived threat to our social status. And as an adolescent, and I'm kind of thinking back to something that I learned, I think it was in like evolutionary psychology, about how, our kind of adolescence was middle age when we were cave people, right? So we had to be the biggest, baddest, strongest, best, fittest. We had to make sure that we were always in the group because there was safety in numbers, right? Because if we weren't in a group and we weren't in numbers, then we were vulnerable to attack from, all of the elements and the wildlife and all of the things. And so... there is a hypervigilance in adolescence in their brain where they do have a paranoia that everybody's coming to get me, and that their social standing in the group is threatened. So, that's easily triggered. That's an easily perceived threat for an adolescent brain. because it's just a prehistoric evolutionary biological mechanism that was designed to keep us alive, is that we're constantly monitoring the group to make sure that we're still in it and we're still safe.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that Harvey Danger were thinking about that when they were writing.
Well, I don't know, because reading the lyrics, it's a lot of what ifs. Like, what if anxiety? Like, they're gonna commit me. They're gonna cut my legs off. They're gonna.
Well, maybe they're cutting the legs off. They cut off my legs and now I'm an amputee. God, I really have to sing that. Cut off my legs, now I'm an amputee. God damn you.
God damn you. Yeah.
I really had to sing that. I think that is kind of a sense of that paranoia, or that metaphor of dismemberment is a representation of kind of the loss of autonomy. When you're constantly hypervigilant, nobody wants you to feel your feelings.
Yeah.
And you can't make romantic and or other attachment connections. And I've lost my autonomy and my agency to make decisions for myself. The world around me is stripping me of the things that I want. So I'll just have to have a wank.
It all comes back to the masturbation. Hey, love it.
Yeah. So that's my hot take on some of the lyrics. Did you have any other ideas? Did you? I mean, what about publishing zines and raging against machines? I think there's
I wanna pierce my tongue. It doesn't hurt. It feels
fine. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah, I know. Look at us. We're so old. You were off tune. I was off tune.
I was totally off tune, and I worry wasn't even singing in the right the tempo or the rhythm of the song. That's all right.
That's all right. Correction corner. Just write in and tell us how crap we are. We're happy to hear it.
Or send us a video of you singing it correctly, and we'll be like,
do that.
well done. Yeah,
golf clap.
You show us up on your vocal skills. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. So let's think about that. What were we talking about? The publishing zines and raging against machines. I mean, for the younger viewers and listeners, what's a zine?
A zine is pretty much just like the shortened word for like magazine.
So a homemade magazine.
Yeah, like a DIY magazine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe like a journal, or like publishing like
I don't know, an article in a magazine.
Yeah, about yourself. Or how much you hate the system, like raging against machines.
Well, I think in my day,
becoming
rebellious. I mean, in my day, zines were homemade magazines. Like people would sit in their bedrooms and they would make magazines related to their favorite music and artists and genres. And I think, what does it say? I think this Harvey Danger is sort of saying, I kind of want to do something creative. Instead of having a wank, I don't know.
Yeah. I want to publish zines and rage against machines. I want to pierce my tongue. It doesn't hurt. It feels fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The trivial sublime. I'd like to turn off time and kill my mind. You kill my mind.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we're kind of looking at like.
That's almost like you're rebelling now. It's like, I'm going to pierce my tongue. I don't care if it hurts.
I want to rebel. I crave freedom. I crave creative freedom. I crave, freedom from the shackles of teenagehood or of the man. Yeah, we're talking about the man.
The man, yeah.
Yeah, I can't be vulnerable. I want to pierce my tongue. It doesn't hurt. It feels fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally fine.
It's totally fine. So, I don't know. It's just, it really speaks to the pain and the conflict of I don't know, the shackles of, I don't know, what am I trying to say, AJ?
That's the
The
shackles of teenagehood
social,
and
it is.
early
And
like late teens, early 20s hood.
And Gen X's, that's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, what a banging tune. So let's talk about
so good.
this. Like if
All right.
if this
Wrap it up. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about it. So, if let's my final thoughts are if Flagpole Sitta was a therapy client, I am probably going to say that they would be the kind of client that uses humor defensively. So what humor defensively is like, I have lots of feelings. I have lots of feelings inside that are quite painful. But in order to keep going in life, I am going to defend against those feelings from entering my consciousness, and I'm going to use humor. I'm going to use humor to do that. We're all just going to have a laugh at my pain, and maybe that might keep me away from the reality of it, the real truth of my feelings and where they come from. So Flagpole Sitter as a therapy client is probably going to do a bit of nervous laughter. And they're probably going to minimize themselves by saying, oh, I'm just being a little bit traumatic.
I'm just edgy. I'm just different.
I'm just,
Don't mind me.
Yeah. And they might come in, because they are of that Gen X, older millennial. They might come in and they might say, look, yeah, I really don't believe in therapy, and then talk at you for 50 minutes. They might do that.
Yeah.
And they really might, benefit from someone validating their pain, because they never had that in their adolescence. They never had any mirrors, no deep attachments, no romantic, minimal attachments that were allowing them to, probably no attachments that were allowing them to be vulnerable, or attachments holding the mirror up, because mum and dad were probably really busy at work, and they were just lonely. And so to combat all of those bad feelings, I'm not, probably still wanking now, but I'm not sure.
I was going to finish up and say, if all else fails, just go masturbate.
Just have a wank.
Just go masturbate.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a really good song about the psychological condition of the adolescent Gen Xer, and probably the legacy that we've all carried through of emotional suppression, self-mockery, self-loathing, and sometimes self-love to manage all of that. You reckon, AJ? Shall we leave it there?
I reckon that is perfect.
Okay.
Absolutely perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We hope that this is given everybody a good, fun psychological analysis of an anthem from the late 1990s.
Yeah. And go watch those listen to that song and then go watch all those teen movies if you haven't watched it. I'm sure everyone's gone and watched American Pie, but you'll get the correlation for sure.
Yeah, and Woodstock 99.
And Woodstock 99. Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Still on Netflix for people in Australia.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we haven't chosen another song for next time, so let it be a surprise.
I like these surprises. They're even surprising me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All right, drum chucks.
All right.
Until next time.
Let's do this.
All right. See you then.
Peace out.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Songs on the Couch. We hope you enjoyed putting today's song under the microscope with us.
And hey, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Join us over on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Songs on the Couch, where we're sharing behind-the-scene clips, more fun music insights, and of course, chatting with you all.
And if you're an artist, musician, psychologist, counsellor, psychotherapist, or know someone who'd love to sit on the couch with us, have your management reach out. We'd love to hear from you at hello@songsonthecouch.com.
Follow us, subscribe, and let's keep rocking out together. Catch you next time on Songs on the Couch.